Today in Form TV, we're going to go airworthy, as they say, and do a little coverage of events out at the Alexandria Airport, as well as give you our first look at some aerial footage we're going to be doing with a drone. And first of all, we want to thank the folks from Wings of Freedom Tour that was in Alexandria, part of the collingsfoundation.org. And we were fortunate enough to get a wonderful tour from Don. And the planes that you're about to see here in Alexandria this July day, a Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress. You're going to also see a B-24 Liberator and a P-51 Mustang. And we're going to get a great little tour of that. And at the end, we're going to show you our first drone coverage of the project here in downtown Alexandria. And as we say, we're true hardcore press, and we'll cover things by land, by water, and by air. Whatever it takes to see that you, the audience of Informed TV, are truly informed on what's going on in the world you live in. Alan Repke reporting. Enjoy this wonderful tour of these planes that were in Alexandria today. Inform TV out at the Alexandria Airport today. Sir, introduce yourself and these incredible planes you have here.
My name is Don Winden with the Collings Foundation from Stowe, Massachusetts. We've got three aircraft here today with the B-24 Liberator, B-17 Flying Fortress, and a P-51 Mustang. We tour the country about 10 months out of the year and give rides and let people tour the airplanes.
And from a standpoint, obviously, the guys that actually flew these are retired and then some. Yourself and your group that do the flying of them, are you airline pilots and that type of thing, or what are you?
I myself fly private business jets for a fractional business jet company.
Okay.
But I'm on vacation now, and I'm just helping the group out here for a week or so as we move them up across the upper Midwest.
And the plane I'm looking at, the distance over there, that is
a B-17 Flying Fortress. 909 is the nickname of that airplane.
Okay.
Which would have been an 8th Air Force.
And their main mission was flying over Europe, right?
Strategic bombing of industrial targets in Europe.
And the plane I'm looking at right now?
That is a B-24 Liberator, which was also a heavy bomber from World War II. Was also in the European theater and in the Pacific.
Okay.
It was a longer range airplane than the B-17, so it was used a lot in the Pacific where they had longer range missions.
How long a range? And in those days they didn't have in-air refueling, did they?
That's correct. These airplanes could typically stay aloft with a normal fuel load of 8 to 9 hours.
Okay, and what type of speed would they cruise at?
Oh, they were, true airspeed would have been somewhere, when they were en route to their targets, would have been somewhere around 200 miles an hour.
Okay, and then you also have a fighter here someplace behind me. If I look at, what aircraft is that, sir?
That is a P-51 Mustang,
okay,
which was a key aircraft in enabling success in the air war against Germany. The bombers were unable to defend themselves against German fighters very well until the P-51 Mustang came along, which had long range and could escort them to their target and back.
Okay, it took till the P-51 came along, so they had a true escort the whole mission from England in?
That's correct.
Okay, and what kind of speed would that fly at?
Well, the top speed on a Mustang was approximately 450 miles an hour.
Okay, so twice the speed of the bombers, and obviously the Germans probably had fighters that flew in that same speed. That's why they were kind of sitting ducks, so to speak.
That's correct.
Okay, and what type of armament the one right behind you? How big of machine guns did they have? What caliber, that type of thing? You know anything on that?
50 caliber machine guns, which typically was the armament for U.S. bombers.
Okay.
There's 10 guns per airplane, and this particular aircraft has powered turrets,
Okay.
which enabled better control over aiming the guns.
The planes you have here, when were they actually manufactured? Do you know?
This one would have been probably in 1943
Okay, right during the war?
during the war.
And were they were probably suspended then, right after the war?
Yes, there was. The Liberator had three primary production facilities. Consolidated. It was Consolidated was the name of the manufacturer, but they were built in San Diego, Fort Worth, and then they subcontracted to Ford Motor Company to build Liberators, and that is an incredible story of how Ford geared their production up to produce. At one time, they were making one Liberator per hour.
Really? And the Liberator is the far one over there, or this one right
This
here?
one right here.
Okay, one per hour they were turning out.
That's correct.
And how many were they made? Do you remember?
They made, it was close to 19,000 Liberators, the B-24, and they made somewhere in the neighborhood 12,000 B-17s.
Okay, 12,000 B-17s. How many of those, and when did they suspend manufacturing or start manufacturing on them? Do you know?
The B-17 was designed in the late 1930s.
Okay.
And most of these airplanes would have been, as the war came to a conclusion, they would have suspended production of them. Some of them were flown directly from the factory to the boneyard.
Okay. That's very interesting. And now you guys, where are you going to fly to from here then?
We're going to leave here in a few hours and going up to Superior, Wisconsin. We'll be
Okay.
there for a few days and then down to Minneapolis, Anoka County Airport in Minneapolis.
Okay. And you're going to do that, you said they do this 10 months of a year?
That's correct.
Okay.
The aircraft are based, they do their heavy maintenance in December and January down in Florida.
They're, from a standpoint of fuel per hour, what kind of fuel per hour you guys
They're
consume?
approximately 200 gallons per hour for each of these bombers.
So at 200 miles an hour, you're going to burn 200 gallons an hour.
That's correct.
And so from a standpoint, the foundation then, combination of rides and donations, you get enough revenue to do a tour with at least 3 of the aircraft then?
That's correct. The
Okay.
donations and rides support
Okay.
the tour.
How was your stop in Alexandria
It was
here?
very successful. We had a great turnout. Everybody's great here in Minnesota.
Okay, and you expect the same when you get to Anoka then?
We sure do.
That
We sure
sounds
do.
good. We're glad to have you in town here. Can I duck in and look inside a couple of these planes?
You sure may.
Okay.
Be my guest.
Thank you, sir. We'll continue to let me be my guide then.
All right.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lane Kalina, General Manager of Farmers Union Oil Company in Alexandria. We have a location also in Garfield, convenience store. We deal in bulk fuels, propane. We have 2 convenience stores, a full service shop, tire department. And whenever you're coming by our location on Broadway or Garfield, we invite you to stop in and check out all the things we have to offer. We are a cooperative and we do pay dividends to our customers, and it is a true locally owned co-op where we are self-sufficient. We're owned by our members, and all dividends, anything that's made here is paid back to our customers. So stop in and check us out and buy a tank of gas.
Remember to get your tanks filled at Phoenix and Alexandria.
You're watching Inform TV, Alexandria, Minnesota. First, tell the history of your family with this plane.
I have a strong family history with this with the B-24 Liberator. I had a uncle who was a pilot with the 15th Air Force out of Italy, and my father was a tail gunner back this way with the 8th Air Force out of England. And then my uncle's wife worked in the factory in Fort Worth, Texas, building Liberators. And this is a Fort Worth built Liberator, so she would have worked on this airplane.
How many pounds of bombs would a plane like this handle?
The Liberator, I think, would hold up to 8 tons of bombs.
Okay. And what size would they normally carry?
They carried anywhere from 100-pound bombs up to 1,000-pound bombs. 200-pound, 500-pound was typical.
Okay, when they were fully loaded with bombs and fuel, then how many miles out could they go for a target?
I would probably have to research that a little bit more, but a typical mission would have been probably 500 to 600 miles.
Okay.
From England into Germany.
And this plane was used on both the German and the European and Pacific front then?
The B-24 was, that's correct.
And were most of them in Europe, or were they in the Pacific?
Well, in Europe, the primary bomber was the B-17, which was could fly a little bit higher than this one, which made it a little less vulnerable to German flak.
Okay.
In the Pacific, where they needed longer range, the B-24 was a better airplane just because of that. And the defenses that the Japanese put up weren't quite as intense as the Germans, so
this was more in Pacific.
B-24 worked better over in the Pacific than it did in Europe.
Okay, I'll step forward here just a second. We'll just give you a little idea of what the tail gunner looked at from here. We're looking at the ball turret, you said? No, explain that, sir.
The ball turret was a gun position which defended the bomber from underneath from fighter attack. And they put a man inside of this. He went in this little door right there.
Okay.
And they lowered the turret down below the airplane, and the ball turret could rotate 360 degrees and then up and down.
What gun position tended to be most successful as far as shooting down the opposition?
Well, probably the nose gun. A lot of the attacks were from the nose, and so the nose gun would have probably been one of the more successful areas.
Oh, okay.
These are 500-pound bombs that are on display here. Obviously, they're dummy bombs.
Sure.
But this airplane could carry up to 8 tons of bombs, so at 500 pounds apiece, that would be 16 bombs.
Okay.
And these doors that you see underneath, when the bombardier, when they were on the bomb run, these doors would open, and when the Norden Bombsight was lined up on the target, he would automatically release the bombs, and hopefully they would hit the target.
When I turn my camera here, people can see a lot of hydraulic lines and that type of thing. What did you say the B-17 that we'll look at later was more successful? This had too much hydraulics in it?
Well, the B-17 was an older design, and the mechanisms were mainly mechanical systems, which left them less vulnerable to enemy fire. When these airplanes were hit in the bomb bay, they were very susceptible to fire, and they lost a lot of airplanes because of the hydraulic systems, and gasoline is up in these tanks above.
How many gallons can these planes hold?
I believe the B-24 could hold about 2,800 gallons.
Okay, what about the B-17? Do you have any idea there? Just a thought?
I don't know. I know it was less.
Okay. And from a standpoint, you said the B-17 also could fly a lot higher than these?
It generally in combat, the B-17 bombed from the upper 20s, around 28,000 feet, where these were in the lower 20s, 20 to 24,000 feet. So it was approximately a mile higher.
And more susceptible flak and fighters and that type of thing?
Down lower.
Okay, great. We're going to turn and look in the front here a little bit here. I think you don't mind if I just point my camera in there a little? Can I step in there a little?
Oh yeah. Let me get this on
Oh.
So we always have it there, I'm sure don't lose it.
You can just, we'll give them a little thought process. We'll show you folks a
heads on that thing.
And this is the B-24.
B-24 Liberator is what
okay.
What they call
we'll give you guys a little look out here from Alexandria today and kind of show you and let the camera adjust a little bit what these guys, the controls that they flew, and maybe we can even look out a little bit next door, so to speak. So very interesting. And we had a gun turret behind us as well. So
Here's the top turret right
can we look in there a little bit? Maybe not from this position.
Yeah, it might be kind of hard to.
Yeah, we'll let the camera see if there's anything that I can show people a little bit. That sounds good, sir. Can we go over and look at the 17 for a second?
You bet.
Idea of the.
Those are all. Most of the names are crew members,
Okay.
and they themselves or people have donated money for the restoration of these aircraft
Wonderful.
in their name.
Wonderful. And then what about the honor crew? I see. What's the anything?
That's kind of a long story. I'm not too sure. It had to do with different bomb groups
Sure.
giving donations,
You bet.
and they were telling me that they're not really doing that anymore, but those names are still on there.
Can we? Where do you want to go first? You want to just look at the fighter here for a second?
Yeah.
And have you piloted all these in,
No,
sir?
no.
Okay. That you pilot the.
This one. I mean, I'm going to fly this one for the first time today.
Okay, wonderful. And you said that was a very successful aircraft in getting some protection all across Europe.
This is the aircraft that enabled the U.S. to get fighter supremacy over Europe.
And the name again?
P-51 Mustang.
Okay, that's what I thought. So we'll just give people a little thought. I see there's a person standing just to give people a little idea of the size of what we're looking at here today.
It has a 1,500 horsepower Rolls-Royce Merlin engine.
Okay, and have any deal on fuel capacity, or you said what was the range on that one?
Oh, God, they would put drop tanks on them, but they probably had I'm just guessing, a 1,500 mile range.
Okay, real good.
But I wouldn't.
Now we'll get the B-17 here. And you guys probably got a history on these. The planes you are flying were those that came later, or were these planes in combat? Do you have records that way?
The B-24 was in combat.
Okay.
This one I do not believe was in combat, but it's, of course, is painted representing
Sure.
an actual aircraft that was
Sure.
in combat.
There. And we can look at that one a little bit, because you guys want to head out here in an hour, somebody said, so I don't want to be in your way in any manner, shape, or form, but it's very interesting, and maybe you can walk up there by the tires a little bit if you want, and the tires went up right. These are rotary engines in these?
Radial engine.
Radial, excuse me, I meant that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here's where the wheels retracted into the nacelles, which are behind the engines.
There. So the engine itself, they were not very deep, were they?
No, the engine itself goes back to about right here. Here's the firewall.
So it's probably, what, 2.5 feet deep? Something
Correct.
like that is all?
Correct.
Okay.
And this is a 9-cylinder radial
Okay.
engine.
Okay.
The B-24 has a 14-cylinder radial engine. It's twin rows of 7. One row is staggered behind the other.
And this is strictly 9.
This is 9.
Okay.
The horsepower is approximately the same, around 1,200 horsepower
Okay.
each engine.
Let's walk around the back, and then we'll duck in there for a second and give the audience Informed TV a little idea of the magnitude of.
There's a good shot of the ball turret.
Yeah. And from a standpoint that with the ball turrets, a successful, or you said just the fact that the front gunner guy, he had a better chance at seeing them, or what was your thought that way?
Mainly because frontal attacks were preferred by the
Oh,
drones.
okay, okay.
So he probably had more opportunities to
Sure.
shoot back.
Yep. And how many minutes of actual ammunition did they have with them? Do you know?
I couldn't tell you. I mean, they were taught to conserve their ammo,
Sure.
so because they had long missions and they were sometimes attacked multiple times. But I'm sure they could have shot their ammunition up in minutes if they would have fired.
Okay, that's kind of my thought process. So we'll just duck around with the camera going. I can cut and paste a little here and there, and I guess we probably had to step over for a second here, and these were 50 caliber machine guns.
50 caliber machine guns.
Okay, wow, this is impressive. I saw these guys flying when I was on the bike trail yesterday morning early, and but I thought I saw them go by, but the reality was I suppose they were given rides at that time.
Right.
How long were the rides that you gave folks?
Half-hour rides.
Half-hour rides, okay.
About 20 miles out, 20 miles back.
Okay, very good. How many people did you have on most of your rides then?
Oh, we had we gave 2 rides on the 24 yesterday. We had 7 or 8 people on each ride.
Okay, okay. What did you charge for the rides?
450.
Okay, okay, very good. When you burn that kind of gas, you gotta charge, as they
Nothing
say.
but smiling faces and a few tears when people would come out of them because
Sure.
of the history behind these airplanes.
Exactly. Should we look up in the Bombay here, or go inside the plane? We'll let the camera adjust a little, and
So you can see there's a lot less hydraulics in this one than there.
yeah,
A lot less vulnerability to fire.
definitely we can see that quite clear, can't we? And and how many pounds did this one hold, you said?
I'm going to say about half the bomb load of the B-24, but operationally I don't know if there was that much difference just because of the length of their missions, and they would have to not necessarily fill the Bombay up with bombs on the other one.
Okay.
Because of the range of the mission, they would have to carry the gas. So.
Basically, going back here were just the cables for flight controls, the way it looks pretty much then, right? Okay. Well, we'll try to jump up above here, go back to that door, and you can give us a little tour inside. We're going to give you a little idea, folks, how crowded the quarters are and getting in and out of these. And I'm going to kind of set the camera in.
That would be a good shot for you to get. That's an important position in the airplane right there. That's the bombardier's position.
Okay. Well, and was a navigator in this other chair here?
Navigator would be up there in the bombardier, and they also doubled as gunners.
Okay. Yeah, we got a gun right there, folks. And you see that this would have been the bombardier in the front, and he also ran the front gun, you said.
Right.
Okay, and the navigator would sit right next to him?
Correct.
Okay. Gotta bear in mind, people, it's very cramped quarters here, but we'll give you a little idea of what it looks.
And that's a Norden Bombsight,
Right above him there?
right by in front of the seat,
Yep.
which is how the bombs were aimed, and that was connected to the autopilot, which steered the airplane when the airplane was on the bomb run.
Okay.
And the bombardier dialed in the aiming point, and when it reached the correct point, the bombs would release.
Okay.
And all the following bombers would toggle their bombs off the lead bomber.
Okay.
So if the lead bomber missed, the group missed.
Okay, that's great to know. And we'll just duck around here then. So you can see, folks, we're in some pretty tight territory. B-17. We're looking at some. Okay. Now we got a gun turret we're getting up into here, sir.
Yes.
And to give you a little idea on that, and then right behind is the controls. Anything particular in the controls that people need to be aware of in these?
I mean, by today's standards, they look fairly crude, but in those days, this was state of the art of aviation, and a lot of it was cutting edge at the time.
Sure. How much runway do you burn up?
Oh, these can generally be airborne probably in 2,500 to 3,000 feet.
Okay. And how about
that would not be the safe runway, but I think a minimum runway to take off in combat would have been 5,000.
Okay. When they're fully loaded with fuel and
Correct.
bombs and that type of
Correct.
thing, full crew and all that.
Correct.
Okay, that is interesting.
And the other thing to remember here is the men flying these things were mostly of them were just out of high school, maybe in the early 20s at the oldest, and the other men manning the airplanes, the gunners, were probably 18 and 19-year-old.
Yeah. And they would make 25 missions before they were considered?
Early in the war, there was 25. As the war progressed, it was up to 30 and then 35 towards the end of the war.
Wow, because my dad had some friends that I know flew the full 25 for sure.
Right.
And they came home to tell about it, as they say.
Right. My father flew 30.
Okay.
And my uncle flew 20 missions. He was grounded because he had a heart murmur at some point, which you can maybe understand how that would happen.
Sure. That I'll just look up here a little bit to give you an idea of the turret, and then we'll keep moving through. I apologize for my cell phone. I got it tucked in my back pocket to be out of the way. I should have turned it off. This is interesting. Can I see a little better up here? Maybe. Yeah, I can. Okay. I'm going to see where people will give you a little idea. I'm kind of confined here, but give you a little footage of what the view the pilot had. Just going to leave the camera on and let it burn some film, as they say. And here, we're up in the bomb bay now.
These are 500-pound bombs again.
Okay. Okay.
Here's the radio operator's position back here on this airplane.
Okay. And the open slat above you, that was just to get in and out, or?
No, I'm sure they could escape out here if they had to, but I've seen they've had guns mounted on here where they could defend from the top.
You said here was the radio guys.
Correct.
Okay. We'll give people a little odd look here. Like I said, I apologize, folks. It's incredibly cramped in here, but so we'll try to cut and paste the best I can. And this was from a radio range here. Are they basically just talking to each other, or how far back could they go to base?
They would do both. They could communicate with their base, although generally
silence during a bomb?
They had radio silence.
Sure. We'll try to get the camera up here just a little. I can't see from there, and then we'll go down. You actually got some ammo in the turret here. Give you an idea that way, folks. Wow. As they say, we've all seen war footage and or war movies for sure, but like you said,
Kind of hits home when you see the machinery.
If you had a fighter aircraft coming at 400 miles an hour, or flak going off,
The skin didn't slow flak down very much.
Right, I can see that, but
or a bullet.
But at the same time, like you said, these would a lot less area for damage if a shell would go through there. And that guy had the turret. He got in before when they took off.
No, this is we're storing things back here,
Sure.
but this would have been open. And the crew generally sat towards the middle of the airplane for takeoff and landing, and then once they were airborne and headed for areas where they could see action, then they would get into their combat stations.
Sure. Wow, this is interesting. Like I said, kind of a tough shoot, but I know I'll get something. So.
Oh yeah, you'll get some good shots or footage, I'm sure. You see how hard it is to move around. You can imagine when it was 40 degrees below zero and no oxygen. They had to be wearing oxygen when they were at their stations, or when they would move around, they would carry portable oxygen.
Or they were to scramble and get in, and if they had an attack coming on the field, I'm sure they had to.
Dressed very heavy, cumbersome clothes, and wearing oxygen and flak vests many times, which which would have limited movement.
Exactly.
Which is why a lot of these guys never got out of these airplanes when they were hit.
Yeah. Do you know, historically wise, how many of these B-17s went down?
No, I don't. It was thousands.
Yeah, they lost a lot.
Probably close to 50% of them that were manufactured.
That was kind of my thought process, because I've watched obviously a lot of footage on this kind of thing. My uncle actually worked on bombers in the Phoenix area during the war.
Did he?
So and other aircraft there, and I don't know if they were getting new stuff or they'd bring stuff back, but he was stationed there the whole war, and I know he always said that every once in a while they would grab a mechanic and you went up on the test flight after you either fixed something or put something on. So he said he learned to use a wrench very carefully.
Right. We still do that today. We take mechanics along for test flights.
Okay. Let's just go and look at that. You're watching Inform TV, Alexandria, Minnesota. A little history of the P-51. You pilot that as well as the Liberator out there.
I do. He's the pilot of the Liberator.
And from a standpoint of your flying background, are you an airline pilot, or what do you do?
No, I just fly World War II airplanes. That's all I do is fly antique airplanes.
Okay. And your dad involved in anything like this, or how did you get involved?
My grandfather's from World War II, and I grew up with aviation. My dad flew. And we just hobbyists.
Okay.
Having fun flying airplanes.
Sure.
This came along, and now I'm sitting here on the ramp in Minnesota polishing a Mustang.
What is your Mustang? The favorite one you like to pilot then?
Whatever one I'm sitting in is my favorite one.
Okay. That's interesting. As far as climb though, of any of the fighters that you've flown, would this be the most aerobatic and most speed or not?
Yeah, it's a great flying machine. It's a Mustang. It's the legend.
Okay.
Can't hard to top a Mustang for anything really.
And
Cleaning it.
if you'd put it in cruise speed, what would you be at?
About 250 miles an hour.
Okay. And the top speed on this plane?
It's redlined at 500.
It would go 500. And speed of sound is what?
Depends on your altitude.
Yeah, but 550? 650? Okay. Okay. Thank you. We'll just walk around here quick. We're just common traffic coming in here today as well.
The swastikas you see on the side would have been a particular pilot's number of enemy kills that he had in combat.
Okay.
I think anything over 5 you were considered an ace.
I would agree. That and these were room for one pilot, right?
That's correct. This one's been configured for 2, so they can
That's what I was thinking. That they've added some space here for check rides and that kind of stuff.
Right.
Okay. Very interesting. I'll try to lift up my camera and see if I can see inside there a little bit. Give you guys an idea of the controls and that type of thing. Give me a little thought process as to warming things up. is taking off out of Alexandria today. Sorry, I less a tripod. Crowd's pulling out now. Here we got Jerry bringing in dignitaries to the construction site today. And Jerry, any good words from Roadrunner Taxi this morning?
Just beat, get her done.
They'll get her done. It's kind of an impressive project, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll catch you later.
Bye.
Roadrunner Taxi. You're watching Inform TV, Alexandria, Minnesota.